We're doing a Macallan today. In case you couldn't tell from all the posing. Yeah, so this that I have in the glass is the... I always get confused on the Macallans because there's a lot of bullshit. Macallan 12-year-old double cask. Now then, I have the Master of Malt description open behind me because, frankly, I'm struggling to make heads or tails of this one. So, here we go. It says an exciting new age statement single malt Scotch whisky. Who remembers the dark days of Macallan Gold? I do. From Macallan, that's matured in a combination of American and European sherry oak for a minimum of 12 years. Here, the proportion of American oak ex-sherry cask is higher than the 12-year-old sherry oak. Why did you call it the sherry oak then? But no ex-bourbon casks are used as they are in the 12-year-old fine oak release. So that's cleared that up. Yeah, so this, like, 60-odd quid for a bottle for a 12-year-old. Now, then, there are other relatively low age statements that are going for a pretty penny. Bladnoch 11 comes to mind. Glenturret 12 comes to mind. We don't really talk about Lagavulin anymore, do we? Key difference with those, Glenturret and Bladnoch both have much lower stocks to pull from. Macallan, certainly not the case. Although they were struggling to meet demand for their age stock for a while, so... but Macallan certainly have a lot more toys to play with in that regard. Also, the presentation is worth noting. 40% liquid. The other two mentioned, 46% natural colour, non-chill filtered, all the good stuff. 40% Billy Basic whiskey. But it's not at the Billy Basic price. This is... It's business class whiskey. Now, it most recently appeared at the time of recording in a video of Jamie and Julia. It's a series by Anti-Chef, and if you are not familiar with that channel, heartily recommend watching it. I got into it because I watched the HBO Julia series. Loved that series. Looking forward to more. And I was like, okay, cool. Is anyone like, you know... I was looking for reviews, I think it was, of the series, just to see how other people found it, because, I mean, if I was the only one that loved it, then it's probably not going to get recommissioned. And I found this series where this alarmingly attractive man, heterosexual, alas, always the case, tries to tackle recipes from Julia Child's books, both the first and second volume. And they're hilarious. They're very... I'm just talking about a YouTube series now. I don't plug enough. I should probably do that more. I should probably plug other people, and not just like whiskey content, because I can get a bit dull, can't it? It's not the only thing that people watch. But yeah, I just love how real. They're real, man. Not like Matt Hancock in the Jungle real. I mean, again, time of recording, that's in the news. He's probably been strangled by now, but... God, if wishes were true. But yeah, reappeared an episode of that. He was doing the jelly roll cake, if you want to find the particular episode. He doesn't mention it by name, but I recognise the label. And it says it's only for special occasions. And I didn't want to be that guy commenting, but like, you can't have afforded a better 12-year-old, because, I mean, all whiskey over in the States is expensive, but given this is already expensive in the UK, I shudder to think how much this goes for in the US. Any US buyers, actually, do please let me know how much a bottle of Macallan 12, any of the expressions, I don't fucking care, to be honest, because it all just seems like bollocks, to be bluntly honest. Yeah, do let me know. Do let me know. So Macallan. What does the Porsche of whiskey smell like, I suppose, is question number one. Little overbrewed tea in there. You're probably expecting a joke where I'm like, oh, this is just tea. No, I'm not. That's not what I've done. Well, then that's something to consider. If I need to get like 20 videos out in a day without killing myself, that's a consideration. I wouldn't ever do that. Or would I? That would involve boiling a lot of water, actually. I can't afford to do that, so... a little fruity, a little bit maybe like apricot. Elements of like black grape. It's not something that comes up very often, but... maybe a little bit of like brown bready, but honestly, there's not a huge amount happening, if I'm completely honest. I don't want to be coming off as if I'm bored by this whiskey, but I mean, it's definitely not one that I've been looking forward to. I don't rate Macallan very much. I know it's a big name, but it trades off of... it trades off of the perception that it's good by people who don't know better. And that sounds really bitchy, and it kind of is, but hey. But there is something a little dishonest about the whole thing. I mean, they have to make money, and at the end of the day, they found the goose that shits the golden egg. So, is that how eggs work? It's like out the rectum? Is that... I'm not fully up on human mating, so I mean, avian is utterly beyond me. I've never seen a woman's cloaca, incidentally. The nose is very flat, very dull, very uninteresting. Quite monotonous, a little sweet. Meh. What's it taste like? I'm not going to bother adding water to this because they've already done that for me. 60 fucking pounds! Chocolate, cookie dough, which is not a tasting note that comes up very often, but yeah, cookie dough. Oh. Cinnamon twists. Like those weird, like, cinnamon-flavoured quavers you get at Taco Bell. Anyone's ever been hungry at 2 AM and the McDonald's queue is like 5 miles long knows exactly what I'm talking about. Do you have a Taco Bell near you in the UK? Comment down below. They're not great. Speaking of not great, it's sweet. It's sweet, it's quite chocolatey, it's quite inviting. It's certainly easy drinking. There's just something a little bit washed out about it. It's like the Mark Gatiss script of whiskies. You know Mark Gatiss, the guy who wrote a fair few episodes of Doctor Who, and all the premises were super solid. But then his execution was just kind of crap, and you just came away from the episode being like, I wish he'd done more with this. I feel like there was more he could have done with this idea. It's kind of like that. I feel like the liquid's not being served right. I feel the same way about Auchentoshan, to be fair, because like Auchentoshan knock out some fucking stunning stuff, and then they just fuck it up when it comes to the bottling stage. Like they add a load of colour to it, they water it down, they chill filter it, does all this stuff that just kind of destroys this beautiful nuanced malt that I know that they have because I've had it so many times as an IB. And when you have it as an IB, before it's been molested, for want of a better way of putting it, it's delightful. And I feel the same way about this. I feel like it's been tampered with a little bit too much. It's been over-engineered, and as a consequence, it's lost its soul. Is it nice? Yeah. Yeah, it's perfectly nice. You know, people wouldn't drink it if it wasn't nice. Of course it's nice. The purpose of this is not to be like, ugh, that tastes terrible, because clearly it doesn't, because they trade on the fact that, you know, people enjoy it. People do actually drink it and think, oh, that's pretty good. But it is... you can tell And this is maybe where I'm starting to get to the point where I do have some experience in this field. You can tell that something's been stripped out of it. Either that's by the fact that it's been watered down too much, maybe the casks haven't been looked after right. I can't diagnose it, but I know there's something not quite right here. I know that there's a good malt trying to get through, but what's been done to it has left it scarred, for want of a better way of putting it. But it's nice, it's sweet, it's perfectly drinkable. And I suspect that's what they're going for, because it's working for them. But it does also feel like a shame. Something that's a little bit sad about this glass of whiskey. And that's not something you ever want when you're drinking a whiskey. You don't want to start feeling like, heavy emotions. I mean, the whiskey will eventually do that to you if you have enough of it, but, you don't want the whiskey to do that whilst you're still kind of, compos mentis, because that's just depressing. And it is also depressing, but you get what I mean. Oodles of caramel. It's like a salted caramel whiskey. It's really sweet, and you know what? In another context, it's quite inviting. It's simple in its delivery, but it's a very sweet, crowd-pleasing, easy-drinking whiskey. I just can't help but feel that there must be more going on under the hood than this that's not being allowed to shine. I think the show does a fantastic job of rescuing it, but it is that kind of, there's something traumatic has happened here. Am I being overdramatic? Have you tried Macallan in the past? Do you enjoy Macallan? Do you remember the days of Macallan Gold? That happened. It was alright. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, I suppose. Leave me a comment down below what you think of Macallan. Do you have other go-to whiskies that you've kind of had taken over from Macallan? I think both Bladnoch and Glenturret are good examples of those, to be honest. I think they're more than happy to pick up the mantle where Macallan are happy to sit. I hear Macallan be called a name more often than a whiskey. I think that tells you everything. I would be curious actually to try this in a blind tasting at some point, because I get the feeling in a blind tasting, without context, I'd probably be a lot nicer to it. So I suspect there's a fair bit of my own bias coming through as well. But anyway, that's Macallan from me. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel and thumb and all that good stuff. And do join me next time, where I'll be drinking something else.